Hi everybody, this is Con. Most of you would know my trusty 10-year-old Waja. It is the car in which I've been filming my Con on the Road series of videos with. In this video, allow me to introduce to you the other car in my household. This 2016 Proton Persona has been with us for the past 1 year, used primarily by my wife. So in this video, I'll be sharing with you not just my review, not just of the Persona itself, but also what are our experiences like living with this car for the past 1 year. One overall look, this is not the most attractive of body shapes of a car. Okay, the Persona reminds us much of the early generation Honda City and also the previous gen Mazda 2. It is a hatchback derived car, so as a result the proportions are not immediately natural. One thing you notice, the rear tire, this rear section, there is a lot of metal here, but the tire looks very small, and from the size of the wheel arches, right, it's not exactly easy to find a bigger wheel to upsize to, because it's a very small wheel arch contained in, with a lot of metal. Okay, but that being said, the design details of the car, there's actually some very intricate details of the car. So let's look at the headlamps. You see, there's this Proton typeface here, and also these wings here. Okay, and you notice this fog lamp section. These details here also are very intricate. Yeah, so it adds a bit of perceived value to the car's appearance. Okay. Back. Up close to the tail lights. So once again you can see the Proton typeface here, and this is also you have this C-shape chrome shape that encircles the entire tail lamp assembly. Okay, looking down there, this is the rear fog lamp slot. And this is the ducktail spoiler that comes with the premium model. Okay, another overall look. Now, the previous generation Persona offered rear disc brakes for selected variants. The new one comes standard with rear drums for all variants. Well, of course, it is a downgrade, no doubt, but at this price segment and also at the Persona's level of performance, rear drums do offer sufficient braking performance, but of course it does not have the kind of visual appeal that rear discs will have. Now, the Persona came to us in generally pretty decent quality. In our 1 year of ownership, we only have had to make one warranty claim, which is the matching of paint between the front bumper and the front fender, and also the fitment of the bumper here isn't entirely as smooth or as seamless as I would like. The paint mismatch between this bumper and the fender has already been corrected by Proton for me, but I noticed that it does not seem to be an isolated case. I actually observed at least one other Persona in the market, one finished in brown if I remember correctly, also had a similar mismatch between the paint of its bumper and the fender. So let's look at the boot of the Persona. As you can see, this is a large boot, 510 liters. It's bigger than even the previous boot. This is a boot size that measures up with most C-segment cars, exceeds most C-segment cars actually. As you can see from the size of my stroller, it can take big items, but be mindful, this is a very small opening aperture. So when you put when you're attempting to load big items into here, you have to be very clever in the way you adjust and maneuver the items before loading them in. So it's not actually exactly straightforward. Another thing, compared to the old Persona, which has gash strut hinges, this one has gooseneck hinges. So even though you have a big boot space, right, as you can observe from the way when it closes, okay, the gooseneck hinges actually impedes into much of the loading space. Yeah, keyless entry, exclusive to the premium CVT model. So inside the Persona, this is the same cabin as you would find in the Iris, but compared to the Iris, the switchgear quality of the Persona feels noticeably improved. The knobs, the buttons, controls all feel more solid than before, and these changes, these improvements have now been implemented back into the recently introduced Iris improvement model. Okay, so closer look. Here's the steering wheel with the steering mounted buttons. All these buttons, as I mentioned earlier, feel more solid than earlier provided in the Iris. So let's look at in-cabin storage space. You start with these door pocket here, okay, and then there's this drawer to keep your smart tag. Now on to the center console. Okay, now there's this little slot here, which is supposed for you to slip things inside, but I don't see much use in it because of the way it is angled. Okay, when you slam your brakes, chances are this thing will just fly out, right? There is also another storage tray here. Okay, moving further back along the center console, we have these cup holders, another slot here, plus this third cup holder here. These are dedicated USB charging ports, able to support 1.5 amp and 2.1 amp of charging. So this is properly useful. But overall, the center console to me is well partitioned, but the slots, each of these slots are too shallow for me. So I think it would have been better if all this partition, this storage configuration can be maintained, but I think it would have been better if each of these slots were made deeper, so it allows you to store more things in the cabin. Okay, closer look at this area again. So here is here's a 12-volt power socket and another USB charging port, which I permanently have a cable connected to charge my phones, right? Over here, this is a useful what my good friend Chip Siap will call the teh tarik hook. Okay, to hook your tapao food. And here's the glove box. There's another hook provided right here at the passenger side headrest. So here's a look at the Persona's touchscreen system. So for starters, it comes with a reverse camera. Okay, it has GPS navigation. It has AM/FM radio. Okay, it has Bluetooth connectivity and also various media playback functions. Okay, as you can see, the touchscreen isn't best responsive at times. It's quite iffy, especially at the top corner. Sometimes it does not react as well as quickly as it should. The reaction is not as crisp as you may like. There's even a calculator function, though I'm not sure why you would need a calculator built into your car's infotainment system, but there you go. The back seat, as you can see, the Persona has ISOFIX, so there is my ISOFIX child seat attached. There's a video of that. I have separately filmed an installation video of this Recaro 01 child seat in a separate video, so do check that out if you are interested in the seat. Now these seats, getting inside. Now one thing about these seats, okay, compared to the old Persona, these seats offer better thigh support. Okay, the old Persona, the seat squabs are shorter, so it gives you the impression that there's more leg room. But over long distances, right, you will feel that in the old Persona, you will feel that the seats don't offer you as much support as this current model. Another thing that was pointed out to me by my good friend Al Bakri from Roda Pusing, this little slot here, Proton cut away this little slot here to ease your entry and access into the car, so that when you go in and out of the car, you don't telanggar the base of the B pillar. Okay, and here at the door, here's another cup holder. Now at the back seat, fixed headrests. The old Persona had adjustable headrests, and funnily enough, so does the Iris. Okay, now these are the ISOFIX top tethers, and this unearths the 60/40 split folding rear seats. And you can see, unlike the old Persona, which allows which gives you a flat loading floor with the boot, this one has a bit of a step up, so you can load long objects, but you won't be able to rest them firmly on the floor. So like most recent Proton cars, right, the Persona's ride and handling is amongst its strong points. This car feels very stable, very assured at high speeds. The suspension also manages the body roll well enough that, you know, when you see a fast sweeping bend on a highway, you can take it at speed with confidence. The steering is well judged. It is not too light that it feels over assisted, but neither is it too heavy that it feels cumbersome to maneuver at low speeds. If I were to have a criticism, one, the tires that they gave with this car is absolutely rubbish. And the wet grip is hopeless. Okay, so one of the first things that I would upgrade with this car at a later date would be to get a new set of tires, a better set of tires that will give me superior wet performance. The other complaint that I have is that compared to its predecessor, which had multi-link rear suspension, this one has a torsion beam. Okay, now first of all, relative to, when you talk about the Persona relative to other cars with a similar torsion beam setup, the Persona rides and handles well enough. But when you take this and compare against its independently sprung predecessor, my personal take, I would rather drive the predecessor model actually, okay? Because quite simply put, right, the torsion beam setup, at the end of the day, it is a inherently compromised solution. It is a very cost-effective, it is a very space-effective solution, but dynamically it is compromised. And coming from coming from a car that is independently sprung and one which I'm still driving on a regular basis, I can actually feel the difference. First of it, when I take this car over a bump, okay, the front end has very good absorption. Okay, the front end soaks up the bump well enough. But at the back, okay, when the rear wheels hit the bump, the entire torsion beam, okay, because the two wheels are connected, right, the entire torsion beam is pushed up. So because of that heavy unsprung weight, right, it causes the whole back end to jump. I mean, jump is a bit of an overstatement lah. Okay, it's a bit of an exaggeration. But when because I'm accustomed to the more harmonious rear end behavior of a multi-link setup, the difference that I experienced in this car is quite substantial. Now, the engine of this car, as you know, the cast iron Campro block of this engine dates back more than 10 years. Okay, but the valve train of this car is new. This car now has a variable valve timing. Not particularly new technology in the grand scheme of things, but new in Proton's context. Compared to the old school Campro that I have at home with my Waja, immediate difference I can tell you, this powertrain is more refined. Okay, it is also more economical. My Waja drinks raw 97. This car will happily take in 95. So that on its own is a big saver. The CVT, okay, the CVT, Proton received much criticism when they first put in the CVT back in the Saga FLX and subsequently the Preve. But now, with the Persona having had some years of experience tuning the CVTs, this is definitely the most improved tuning of the Punch CVT in the whole Proton range. And recently Proton re-implemented back this CVT tuning into the Iris. Okay, compared to the earlier versions of the Punch CVT, the one used here in the Persona is more responsive. It also feels more intelligent with its ratio selection. Okay, what I particularly like that it has a very good downhill logic control. So when you are descending a slope, you actually very rarely need to put the transmission into L, because the transmission control unit actually senses that you are on a downhill gradient and you need that extra engine braking for better control and handling. Where it still can be improved upon is its low speed smoothness, because this is a clutch based CVT rather than a torque converter based CVT. You can there is that inevitable jerk at low speeds, as you know, as the transmission control unit struggle to mesh the clutch properly. So the engine and transmission combo, okay, overall it is snappy and responsive enough that to suit town use. Okay, you get you get a good dose of healthy mid-range torque on excess when you want to accelerate quickly to overtake traffic. That's not something that we want to say very often with the older Campro engine. Okay, but that being said, when you take this out on the highway, you will notice that the engine runs out of breath very quickly at higher speeds. Okay, but overall, in the context of things, this is an entirely adequate setup for day-to-day use. So I've just refueled the Persona. The trip computer calculates an average fuel consumption of 7.6 liters per 100 kilometers, which in my experience is an extremely optimistic number, because my own manual calculation figures show that the average fuel consumption of this car over the past 1 year of ownership is actually closer to 9.6 liters per 100 kilometer. The trip computer projects a cruising range of 516 kilometers from this full tank, which is once again an extremely optimistic number, because earlier the fuel light came on at about 330 kilometers, after which I had to top in 34.4 liters of fuel to fill up the tank. So projecting from the average consumption figures that I've worked out over the past 1 year, okay, and the fact that the Persona currently has a 40 liter fuel tank, the actual cruising range of this car is closer to 400 kilometers rather than 500 as being shown here. Okay, and also bear in mind that because you don't actually want to run your tank empty, you are actually looking at a refueling intervals of at most 300 to 350 kilometers between refuels. So overall, the new Persona, a very decent product from Proton. Styling is a bit awkward, yes, but it is still a full-size 3-box sedan. It is decently equipped. Okay, it has all the features that one would to cover the basics of basic needs of modern motoring. It offers you decent enough performance. It offers you a decent enough driving experience. Okay, so if you are currently looking for your first car, or if you are currently upgrading from a Saga or a Myvi or a Viva, this is a legitimate upgrade. But if you are coming from the previous gen Persona, now then, to say that this car is better than the previous generation Persona, okay, it's like saying that the current new Honda City is a better car than the old Civic FD. No doubt this is a newer car with better features, more refinement, but fact is, you are also moving into a car that has just gone one segment down from before. Okay, with this car, Proton has definitely moved the Persona nameplate one segment lower. So if you are coming from the previous generation Persona, I'm not sure this car can be viewed as an upgrade. In fact, coming from where I am in the Waja, I still don't see this car as an upgrade. One of the reasons why I bought this car was because my wife before this came from a Saga, and from where she was, this car represents a step up. I mean, in all honesty, if I was still a bachelor, I definitely would not have spared this car another look. But but the fact is this: today I'm somebody's husband, I'm somebody's father. I cannot argue with 6 airbags. I cannot argue with electronic stability control, and I most certainly cannot argue with ISOFIX mounts. So the Persona offers all these at an affordable price, and at the same time it offers me a decent enough driving experience that is still acceptable to me as a motoring journalist. So overall, as a package, this car is far from perfect, but for the money that is asked for, it is decent enough. So that's it from me for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Do share with me any feedback or opinions that you may have in the comment section. So until the next video, thanks for watching. Bye for now.